Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, members. I want to begin by accepting the committee amendments and thanking the committee staff for working with my office to come up with a reasonable timeline for this important project. Members, according to a study last year by the Public Policy Institute of California, our K-12 public schools serve about 1.4 million English learners, representing about 22% of the student body. By law, students whose primary language is not English are required to be assessed for English language proficiency. A great deal of these students end up classified as English learners. The EL classification is meant to be temporary, and studies have shown that those who are reclassified as fluent English proficient tend to be among some of our best performing students. The problem we have is that reclassification is that school districts across the state have different criteria. Some have rigorous reclassification standards and lower reclassification rates, and others have high reclassification rates but more lenient standards. There's no consistency and no statewide standard. AB 491 would require the Department of Education to review and analyze the criteria, policies, and best practices that school districts use to reclassify English learners and to make regulatory statutory recommendations based on those findings. The report would be due in 2019, a year after the English language proficiency assessments for California are implemented in order to capture the data from this new test. Just on a note, nothing is more important in a district like mine where we have far more than 21% of English learners to figure out a reclassification standard that moves people into speaking English proficiently. There is nothing that is more important to their educational background and their educational future, quite frankly, and their success overall. So this is an important issue. I know it's been moved forward before by Senate, previously by now Secretary of State Padilla, but one which we've never actually been able to get out of both houses. So I respectfully ask for an aye vote, and with me to testify in support is AB 491. In support of AB 491 is Martha Alvarez, the Director of Government Relations for San Diego Unified School District.
Good afternoon, members of the committee, Mr. Chair and staff. My name is Marta Alvarez, and I am proud to be here today as a former English learner myself. I'm proud to have gone to Stanford for my undergraduate and master's degree. And today I am here on behalf of the San Diego Unified School District, and we're very supportive of AB 491. I'll start off by saying, as you know, California is currently going significant changes to the educational system, both in terms of assessments, the new content standards Common Core, as well as the State Board of Education considering a new accountability system. We think that AB 491, with the analysis and recommendations that are being required, it's timely, it's appropriate, and it's important request that could result in positive improvements to the reclassification criteria currently used to evaluate English learners across the state. Let me tell you a little bit about San Diego Unified. As you know, we're the second largest school district in California. We have more than 30,000 students who are English learners, about 27% of our total student population. As the Assembly member mentioned, 22% of California students are EL, so San Diego Unified's numbers are far above that number. We have about 4,000 students who are long-term English learners. Those are the students that have been in our system for more than 6 years that have not been reclassified. For San Diego Unified, it's very important that we support those students toward reclassification, because ultimately that will allow them to be placed into the mainstream classes where they cannot just build on their academic and linguistic opportunities. I also mentioned that it's really important to keep in mind that English learner students, it's a continuum of differences. Some of the students, they're recent immigrant students or refugees that come into our school system. In San Diego, being close to the border, we have attracted a lot of those families, and we have welcomed the diversity in our district. We also have students that are second or third generation, but they're still learning English in our school system. I'll mention just briefly to wrap up what we're doing in San Diego with our reclassification rates. We are considered one of those districts in the state with more rigorous criteria than other school districts. As you know, we don't have CST scores this year. So in San Diego, we have used other information to be able to consider how to reclassify students. We have used the CELT scores in the past as the leading indicator. We have also looked into, as part of the reclassification profile, we also look into more feedback from the teachers, since they know the students the best. For these reasons, we think it's important that this bill moves forward. It's important for the State Board of Education and the California Department of Education to consider best practices that school districts can adopt in their school districts. We're very happy for 491, and we urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Leilani Aguinaldo-Yee on behalf of the Los Angeles Unified School District in strong support of AB 491. We have asked the author to consider amending the bill just to add for diversity in the size of districts. That's included in the sampling. But otherwise, we wholeheartedly support AB 491. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill's been moved and seconded. Do we have any further members of the public in support? Any witnesses in opposition? Seeing no witnesses in opposition, any comments from the committee? Seeing no comments from the committee, Ms. Gonzalez, you may close.
Respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Thank you for caring about this issue. Very important. I come from a school with a very high ELL number of students, and I know how important this is. Participated in the CELT many times myself, so thank you. With that, Madam Secretary, if you call the roll, please.
The motion is do pass with amendments to the Appropriations Committee. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez?
Aye.
Chavez, aye. Kim? Aye. Kim, aye. McCarty? Santiago? Aye. Santiago, aye. Thurmond? Weber? It's out with 4 votes.
Did we leave it on call? The bill's out with 4 votes.
That might be a first.
Who do we have? Do we have? We have a member. We have Mr. Bonta with file item number 17. That's AB 1240 by Mr. Bonta. Mr. Bonta, you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Let me start by thanking you, Mr. Chair, and your staff for your time and willingness to work with me and my office on this bill, and I will be accepting the committee's proposed amendments to state clearly that serving breakfast will not supplant instructional time. And secondly, I commit to working on the concept of a waiver going forward and working with your office as we do so. With that, I'm proud to present, along with Assemblymember Thurmond, who is a joint author, AB 1240, the Breakfast After the Bell bill, which would establish basic requirements for school breakfast programs to ensure that more California children have access to school breakfast and are prepared to learn. Research tells us that breakfast, and more specifically, school breakfast, is tied to students' academic achievement and physical, mental, and emotional health. On an average school day in California, 4.3 million, or 3 out of 4 students, miss out on the health and academic benefits of school breakfast, and at least 2.2 million of these students are California's most vulnerable children. AB 1240 proposes practical changes to the school breakfast program based on the need of the student population that will help our state more effectively and efficiently connect students with the resources they need to learn, grow, and achieve. Many schools that presently do not offer breakfast will be required to do so. Higher need schools would be required to integrate breakfast into the school day, offering a meal sometime after the first bell rings. Where student need is the highest, schools would also begin to offer breakfast free of charge to all students. To protect local decision-making and provide local control, AB 1240 empowers schools and school districts to choose the best method of serving breakfast after the bell on their campuses, the one that works best for them. I respectfully request your support of this bill, and I have with me 2 witnesses. One is Principal Barbara Friedrich of Stanley Mosque Elementary School, LAUSD, and the other is Rodney Taylor, Director of Nutrition Services, Riverside USD. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Balto. Your witnesses.
Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Friedrich. I am the principal of Stanley Mosque Elementary in LAUSD. I am also the elementary principal of the year in LAUSD. I have been an administrator for 13 years, 5 very happy years at Stanley Mosque, the school that I opened. And we have currently 562 students K-5 and 44 preschoolers on our campus. All of our classes do breakfast in the classroom in the morning, with the exception of my afternoon preschool. We started 5 years ago with a before school and a second chance breakfast at Stanley Mosque. And our average numbers that were served were approximately 35% of my students on a good day. Currently, with breakfast in the classroom, we're serving close to 90% of our students every day. Breakfast after the bell has cut down on our number of office referrals in the morning because our children are being fed. The children are focused. From the moment they walk in the classroom, they're served their breakfast and they're journaling. They're watching educational videos. They're collaborating together. So in my school, there isn't a moment that's wasted. If you think about it, in an elementary school, on average, when they first get into the classroom, there's a lot of things that go on that push back a little bit on the educational piece. But when they get in there and they're served their breakfast and they start right away, we're really losing fewer minutes in the morning as the children get going. Oops. I also wanted to talk to you about the fact that we are like the little engine that could. 2.5 years ago, they brought the program to us, and I sat down with my staff and I said, this is something that LAUSD wants to do. We have to make it work. And that's exactly what we did. It takes us 15 minutes in the morning from the time the kids walk in the room until the time that the carts leave the classroom. We start off taking a little longer, obviously, at the beginning of the year, but at this point in the year, no more than 15 minutes are taken up with breakfast in the classroom. And I know that there have been issues with my colleagues with the mess. There have been issues with my colleagues with little insects. We don't have that problem. The kids clean up after themselves. We remove all of the trash from the receptacles every day, take them in the bags, and we have not had those kinds of problems at Stanley Mosque. They call us a model program, and I believe we are. It works for us. We give our kids breakfast in the classroom, free lunch, and also supper. And those are the 3 meals our kids get daily.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to come before you today. My name is Rodney Taylor, and I'm the Director of Nutrition Services I've been a director in school districts for 25 years now, and Riverside is the 15th largest school district in the state with 43,000 students in 47 schools, and 68%, or 7 in 10 of those children, come from at-risk homes. What that simply means is they're at risk of hunger. And we have several after-the-bell programs that serve as a safety net, one being the breakfast in the classroom. We have it in 6 of the 31 schools. The participation went up from 18% to over 90%. The traditional breakfast model is a failed model. 18% of the children throughout our state. Those monies are on the table from the feds. We're not asking for appropriations. We're asking for common sense. Add common sense to Common Core and make sure that we've satisfied the most basic need on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that our children are fit and ready to learn. And so in our district, before we did the breakfast in the classroom, we were feeding 18%. It's 90% in the ones. And after the bell, even in the more affluent schools where we have grab and go, we're able to feed as many as 400 kids in a 10-minute span. This is really a common sense measure because there are no appropriations attached to it, and we should be advocating and ensuring that our kids aren't hungry. I've been married to a teacher all of my life. They buy food because they know when a kid says they have a headache or they're hungry, or a headache or their stomach hurts, it means they're hungry. If we're truly serious about children exceeding in the classroom, then we need to make sure that they are fit and ready to learn when they get to school. I'm a product of an at-risk home. I did not excel until I got into college when I can ensure that I had the meals that are necessary. We're allowing 5-year-olds to make a decision about whether to go play or eat breakfast. That's what we're doing.
Thank you, sir. Any further witnesses in support? Just state your name, affiliation, and position on the bill only, please.
Hi, my name is Diana MacDonald from the California State PTA, and we are in support of this bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Erin Evans Feudum on behalf of the San Francisco Unified School District in support. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members, Brendan Tuig on behalf of the California Center for Public Health Advocacy and support.
Justin Rauzo with Roots of Change, also in support. Thank you.
Move the bill. Bill's been moved and seconded. Do we have any opposition? Seeing no opposition, we'll bring it behind the dais. Mr. Bonta, thank you for recognizing the need for children to eat to be successful in school. I've seen it myself, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, so I very much appreciate that. I appreciate your understanding of my desire to see alternative methods to deliver students food during the day. Just, I look at a high school setting, if you have PE during first period, do you really want to eat in the locker room? Not always the most pleasant smelling place. And so you brought up the idea of grab and go. So certainly that's one of the concepts embedded in this bill too. So I appreciate you working with me and us getting to understand the issue together better. So I want to thank you for your advocacy on this effort. Any other members of the committee wish to comment? Seeing no comment, you may close, Mr. Bonta.
Sorry.
Ms. Kim, wave that hand. like class, okay? Remember that?
Mr. Bonta, I do have a question, and again, for clarification purposes too. When a similar bill came before our committee, it was had to do with lunch program, and we were concerned that that will cut into the instructional time. I'm glad to hear that in the beginning of your presentation, you did accept the amendment that would make sure that it doesn't cut into the classroom time, because that is so important. But when similar bills were introduced in the past, it carried a I believe we supported that, right, in the past, because it allows school districts to apply for financial waiver, or they were contingent upon the funding in the annual budget. Could you clarify whether this bill will do just that too? Because again, while I support the breakfast program because it is the single most important meal of the day, and especially for our young students, we do need to do everything we can to make sure that they are fed if they cannot be fed in the morning before they come to school. And I really have understanding of that, but again, I do have problem when it's a state mandated program. So I think the gentleman, one of the witnesses, did mention that this is something that is addressed, but I want clarification and assurance that we're not going to be burdened. I mean, I don't want every school district to be billing the state.
Thank you for your comments. Let me just take the first point first and the second one second. Thank you for raising the issue of instructional time. I wholeheartedly agree. I want to thank Mr. Chair again for his advocacy on this issue and the discussion and dialogue that he sparked with our office to help us to get to where we are, where we have made a very clear statement in the bill that instructional time will not be supplanted. And there are a number of models. There's breakfast in the classroom, there's grab and go, there's second chance, there's extended passing period, there's mid-morning break. There's a whole set of different options available to the school site and the school district where they can decide best how to not supplant instructional time. So I just want to reaffirm my commitment and restate my thanks to the chair, and also thank you to you for raising it. On the other issue of the waiver, we got some proposed language on a waiver. We vetted some of that language. We vetted that language with the California Department of Education, and that started a dialogue which raised a whole slew of different issues. We think that the waiver issue is multifaceted and had too many moving parts to determine to cement and crystallize language today. That's why, in addition to the amendment about instructional time, I stated in the beginning of my comments that we are committed to exploring the concept of the waiver. The issue of a financial waiver has come up. It's in the center of our radar. We want to address and accommodate that, but at this point we haven't studied and dove deeply enough to fully present to you fully fleshed out language without any unintended consequences that addresses all the possible issues that a waiver can. Having said that, we're committed to working on the waiver. We're committed to working on the concept of a waiver and to working with the chair and the chair's staff as we do so. So we're going to work on it.
Thank you. Any further comment from the committee? You may close.
I just want to thank you all for seeing the importance of this bill. There are huge federal dollars, as has been stated, that are being left on the table that we can leverage. It's 6 to 10 times the leverage of federal dollars when there's state input. It can make a massive impact in students' lives. So thank you all for your commitment to our students, to our learners, and to our schools. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Bonta. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is do pass with amendments to Appropriations Committee. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez?
Aye.
Chavez, aye. Kim? Kim not voting. McCarty? Santiago? Aye. Santiago, aye. Thurmond? Weber? 3 votes. It's on call.
The bill is on call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members, and staff.
We're waiting for authors at this moment. We're waiting for Assemblymember Lowe, Assemblymember Allen, Assemblymember Gomez, and Assemblymember DeBobne.
Sir, we're waiting to hear from the authors. Your offices. We have one member that's outside that's supposed to be here in a couple minutes. The other one's in committee, and the other one's MIA.
Why don't you sit here with me?
We'll now move to file item number 19. File item number 19, Assembly Bill 1358 by Mr. DeBobne. 19.
Mr. Chair, committee members, I apologize for the delay. I would like to thank you for the time today and to bring up AB 1358, the School Facility Design Build legislation. AB 1358 is a straightforward bill to authorize and extend design build authority for school districts on projects over $1 million until the year 2025. This delivery method leads to accelerated project completion, cost containment, reduction of construction complexity, and reduced risk of cost overruns for school districts. Last year, with bipartisan support in both houses of the legislature, this bill passed and the governor signed SB 785 by Senator Wolk, which overhauled the design build process for state and local agencies. This bill is directly modeled on the Wolk legislation and applies to provisions similar to SB 785 to the school districts throughout our communities. It is important to note that this bill does not require school districts to utilize design build, nor does it touch traditional design bid build processes. This bill simply expands options for school districts. Let me repeat that. This bill simply expands options for school districts to use design build and makes changes to the requirements for contractors to pre-qualify for a design build contract. Among the requirements for pre-qualification is a commitment at both the contract and subcontract levels to utilize a highly skilled and trained workforce for apprenticeable occupations. This is a critical ingredient to making sure that schools are built to the highest quality standards, and that also we are incentivizing the training of the next generation of a highly skilled workforce, and that also our children are able to go to the safest possible schools. I have today with me several of the co-sponsors of this bill, including Cesar Diaz with the State Building and Construction Trades, and I'll let them speak on their behalf.
Your witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I won't go too much into the point. I think the Assembly member has defined this bill thoroughly. It is bringing into unity basically all the statutes that deal with design build, similar to the bill that was passed last year with unanimous support. It encourages apprenticeship. It provides an alternative, and I think it gives contractors the ability to look at all the design build statutes and understand them better so that they can comply with all the requirements under the law. For those reasons, we urge your support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Mr. Chairman, members, Eddie Bernanke on behalf of the National Electrical Contractors Association. As my colleague, Mr. Diaz, just mentioned, we worked last year in the conformity measure to bring all the design build statutes for cities, counties, and special districts into one area of law. This bill would bring the design build statutes for school districts into conformity with that as well. Conformity for design build is good for contractors because if you're working in one area of the state or if you're working with multiple different districts throughout the state, it allows them to know the rules and regulations that are going to be consistent through that design build process. And so for that reason, we are in support and urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Mitch Seaman with the California Labor Federation. For the reasons previously stated, we're also in support. We would just emphasize that the step this bill takes in helping prepare the skilled workforce of tomorrow is an incredibly important one, and we would urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public in support? If you could just state your name, affiliation, and position on the bill. Hearing no further support, any opposition to the bill, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I'm Julianne Broyles. I'm filling in for Richard Markison, who represents the Western Electrical Contractors, the Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Contractors Association of California, and the Air Conditioning Trade Association and Associated Builders Contractors is their San Diego chapter. For the record, they have an opposed unless amended position on the bill. The issue deals with the time frame for implementing the skilled workforce requirements that are in the bill today, which says that at least 20% of the skilled workers have to be available from a specific apprenticeship program by 20% by January 1, 2016, 30% by January 1, 2017, and each 10% up for the next 3 years after that. We do not believe that in 6 months, just 4 months after this bill would go into effect, that you would have the time frame enough to have the skilled workers needed and available to work on these contracts. The amendment that they are requesting is an amendment to push that out for at least a year, if not 2 years, as the beginning start date of this requirement. For those reasons, we are opposed unless amended.
Thank you. Any further opposition to the bill? Seeing none, any comments from members of the committee? Seeing no comments from members of the committee, Mr. Dababneh, you may close.
I just want to respectfully ask for an aye vote and really appreciate the time and thank you for the consideration.
You just need a second.
Did I second?
Yes.
We got a second. Okay, good. With that, Madam Secretary, I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Let me call the roll, please.
The motion is due pass to appropriations. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez? Kim? Kim, no. McCarty? Santiago?
Aye.
Santiago, aye. Thurmond? Weber?
Aye.
Weber, aye. So it has 3 votes.
The bill is on call, Mr. Dababneh. Thank you. Now hear file item number 22, AB 1431 by Mr. Gomez. You can do it.
Just a second. Just the